Welcome to Module 11, which is the second part of audio coding. In this module, we will dive deeper into advanced audio compression techniques, including psychoacoustic models, MPEG standards, and lossless formats like FLAC. We have mentioned this before. Psychoacoustic models leverage the way humans perceive sound to remove parts of an audio signal that are inaudible or not relevant. The key techniques include, for instance, masked signal components. That is based on the idea of removing sounds masked by louder signals. This means we don't waste bandwidth on signal that wouldn't be heard anyway. The second technique is the masking of quantization noise. In fact, during the process of converting sound into digital data, which is the quantization, some noise is generated, which is basically an artifact. If this noise is masked by other signals, so we can ignore it, saving storage space. The third technique is the frequency filtering, retaining only the frequency that are most important for the perception, such as, for instance, 300 to 3400 Hz range in voice signal. The masking effect is, in absolute, the most important way for the compression. So now let's delve into the masking process. And the first is the absolute threshold of hearing. So now let's try to imagine to have a person in a quiet room. And we raise the intensity of a tone on 1 kHz until just barely audible. Vary the frequency and plot the result intensity. So, with this procedure, we obtain what is called the absolute threshold of hearing, which is depicted in the lower part of the plot. The absolute threshold of hearing represents the minimum sound level at each frequency that a human ear can detect in a quiet environment. Sounds below these thresholds are not audible and can be discarded. In this way, we can optimize audio compression. Another effect is the frequency masking, which occurs when a loud sound at a given frequency raises the threshold for nearby frequencies, making quieter sounds in that range not audible. Discarding masked frequencies allows us to remove redundant frequencies during the compression. The critical frequency range depends, of course, on portion of spectrum we are considering. Another effect is the temporal masking, which refers to loud sounds obscuring quieter ones before, during, and after they occur. When it's before, we call it pre-masking. When it's after, we call it post-masking. When it's during, we call it simultaneous masking. For example, after hearing a loud sound, it takes time to perceive softer ones. Let's talk now about lossy compression that takes use of masking procedure for the compression. So the MPEG is a lossy compression format. Maybe we have seen it. The standard developed by ISO organization defines coding for audio and video. For now, we talk about audio. MPEG standards define the characteristics at different standard MPEGs. So MPEG 1, which defines the coding standard for both audio and video, and it defines the characteristic of the total rate, the video resolution, the sample rate for the audio, and the application of the MPEG 1 is basically web movie, MP3 audio, video CDs, and others. MPEG 2, which achieves better audio and video quality, so we have a higher video resolution here, and the audio, instead of being MP3 coding audio, is AAC, which is an improved MP3 with a better quality. And then MPEG 4, which is the last one, which is optimized for internet streaming with better quality at low bit rate. These standards balance compression and audio fidelity. So let's delve into now the MPEG 1 compression procedure for the audio. MPEG 1 divides audio into 32 frequency subbands using some filters. Masking thresholds are then calculated for each subband to decide which one can be discarded. Bits are allocated to preserve the quality, where needed, such as in louder or more critical frequency ranges. MPEG-1 audio coding is composed by 3 layers of complexity. The higher is the layer, the more compression factors are taken into account. MP3, for instance, is part of the MPEG-1 layer 3 and achieves high compression by leveraging these principles. Sometimes compression that lead to a degradation of the quality of the sound is not appropriate. For this reason, there exist lossless audio compressions. One example is the FLAC format. The FLAC achieves compression without quality loss, any quality loss. This consists of 4 stages: blocking, interchannel decorrelation, prediction, residual coding. Blocking consists into splitting input audio into manageable blocks. The interchannel decorrelation step allows the FLAC format to exploit the fact that in many stereo files, channel content is correlated. This brings to not directly code sub-blocks into sub-frames, but instead coding an average of all samples in both sum blocks, or the difference between all samples in both sum blocks. In the first case, we call it mid-channel. In the second case, we call it side-channel. The third phase, which is the prediction phase, the encoder tries to find a good mathematical approximation, which is called predictor, for each sub-block. The process is done by predicting a certain sample based on samples that preceded it. Some prediction methods are polynomial approximation and linear predictive coding. Only predictor parameters are then stored with the consequent high reduction in storage effort. And then the last phase, which is the residual coding. The difference between the original signal and the predicted signal is coded lossily with few bits, since such difference should be minimal. The effectiveness of an audio coding procedure can be measured by some parameters. The first, which is intuitive, is the quality, which is the ability to reconstruct the signal in a correct way. And the second is the complexity, which quantifies the computational resources required for encoding and decoding. And then the compression rate, which quantifies the storage size saved during the compression. The robustness, which evaluates the performance of the encoding mechanism with diverse signal types. Applications like streaming prioritize compression and quality, while real-time applications like gaming demand low complexity and high robustness. So let's conclude the module. In this module, we explored advanced audio coding techniques, including psychoacoustic principles, MPEG standard, and lossless compression. These methods balance quality, storage, and computational efficiency, enabling diverse applications in modern media. Thank you for your attention.